Hello, I'm doing all right. What's new with me? Well, I'm in the dorm lobby and I'm fucking here. Um, so yeah, sent my headphones off the calf and you know, feedback was helpful, and now I just gotta wait for them to get back and get back to work. Right, so I'm not going to, I'm not gonna lie. The was a little bit more controversial than I expected. Um, during SoCal Cam Jam, it was, at least from the online presence, it was much better. Though, you know, CAF had a little bit of a different audience, and so things were a little bit more mixed. I found that a lot of the in-person responses were very positive, but some of the people online, especially because we had a lot of people coming in from this server and a couple others on this side of Discord. Then some of them liked it, some of them didn't. So now it's time to parse through all of the feedback and see where my failures were. Right. Yeah. Right. So, in terms of gear, well, someone brought to my attention this Core YouTube powered amplifier kit. I think it was called Sangaku or something like that.
Yeah.
Someone brought that to my attention. It's too expensive for me right now, but that's something I wanna try getting together one of these days. So see about that.
Nice.
Um, Aside from that, I haven't really bought any new gear in a while.
What about music you're listening to? Any specific artists or albums that you're currently enjoying?
Let's see what's at the top of my Spotify.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, usual with me, a lot of orchestral stuff. Let's see. Finding Neo just dropped their new single, so I've been listening to that occasionally on repeat because that's what I do. Uh, but yeah, not a whole lot new with me on that front.
All right. Yeah, I've been listening to I've been looking for some good synthwave albums, and
Ooh,
yeah, I came across some good stuff. I already knew about this one called Akuma by Tokyo Rose and Alex. And it's pretty intense. It's not like laid back synthwave. It's like kind of almost like hard techno slash synthwave, like a mix. So it's really interesting. There's a few tracks on it that I like. A lot of the tracks I'm not a big fan of, but definitely some tracks are cool. But then what I did was I explored each artist, Alex and Tokyo Rose. Alex is the guy that was coming through with the very aggressive and intense music because that's how all his albums are. But then when I went to Tokyo Rose, he has the more chill, laid back synthwave, but it still has intensity. Sometimes it comes forward with really nice intensity. It's just that classic synthwave that you expect when you think of it, and you think of like the '80s and stuff. So
yeah, hard synth. Yeah.
yeah, it's really awesome. So the album I've been listening to is called Tokyo. Wait a minute, Tokyo Burnout, I think. Oh no, it's called sorry. It's called The Chase Last Run by Tokyo Rose. So if anybody's looking for synthwave, check that out. It's really awesome.
Okay, I just found it.
Yeah, that's the one, man. That one, I'm about
Oh, that opening on Cruisin'. Okay.
yeah, and the art. I love the
Okay.
artwork too. The album art's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. I haven't listened to the whole album yet, but like the first like half of it, I like almost every track. So it's look forward to exploring him more.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm just skipping through it right now. I will be listening to this once this is over.
nice. Cool. So yeah, maybe we'll come back to this if other people come in, kind of get more thoughts.
Okay.
I'm still listening to my Ellicott tube head amp. It's a broken record now. Every episode I talk about it a little, but it's just so impressive. Every time I listen to it, I'm just blown away. I just use my HD 650s. It's all I'm using, and it's just incredible. It's so it's detailed but smooth, musical, 3D, like everything. It's just amazing.
Well,
So,
it seems to be something pretty good on my 580. So.
oh, you have you which Ellicott do you have? Do you have the 8600?
No. HD 580.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Audio
Yeah.
Technicas. I yeah. AD series Audio Technica. I don't have any. I have an R70X though, but that's it.
I see. Okay. But yeah, I think that Ellicott is becoming really popular in the server because there's even a thread under the DIY channel.
Sorry, you were referring to something else. What is it?
Well, I'm talking about the amp, the Ellicott, the Japanese
Ellicott.
DIY amp.
Ellicott. I have not.
Yeah, Ellicott. Yeah, it's a really good. Well, it's technically a speaker amp or a power amp, but
The
people,
30 something.
it's the one I have is called TU 8600 S, I think TU 8600 S.
And these come in kits.
Yeah, they come in kits. Mine, I didn't build mine. Somebody else built it and was selling the built unit. But yeah, like PC Chip and there's a couple other guys
Okay.
have gotten ordered the kits, and they're Dan, I think, also, and they're building the kits right now. Um, Base I think was the first one in the Discord to get it, and then he told Fami about it, and then Fami is really liking it. He's using it with his Klipsch speakers.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
if you get a chance to check it out at a meet or something, yeah, it's really impressive.
yeah, I'll look out for this. I'm not too much into amplifiers, but yeah, I'll look out for it. This is cool.
Yeah, and it's cool because you can use it as a head amp too, either with the front port, or most people I think try to do, or a lot of people use a speaker tap cable to
Okay.
power it using the speaker taps. That's what I do, and
Okay, that's
yeah,
interesting.
it's cool. Okay. So Juan, what are your thoughts on car audio? Do you listen to kind of music while you're driving, and do you try to like enhance the audio experience and have a better system, like that kind of thing, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I will say this right now. I don't drive much. Okay. I
Mm-hmm.
live in San Francisco. Parking's way too expensive for me to bring a car here.
Right.
Um, no, I will say that I actually have heard some really nice systems in these new luxury cars from Acura and Lexus. No,
Yeah.
like genuinely really nice systems in these cars now. Um,
Yeah.
Although in regards to improvements, like I don't have much experience with this. I drive a little bit of a shitbox, but um, I found that a lot of some people now they'll or I guess this has been a trend for a while. They'll try like adding more speakers into their to their door panels. Just shooting with like shooting six tweeters into their chair or something like that. Crazy stuff like that. Uh, I'm not gonna get into the subwoofers because that's totally different thing. But a lot of people are trying to go for like loudness in their cars and whatnot, or thinking, or like I've seen like a general online thinking that anything that the OEM puts in is it's not good. You need to swap it out. You need to swap out the speaker. You need to swap out the radio or something like that. If that's even possible with these new cars. Um, but the thing is that these cars, the acoustic work that's going into them now, that's being integrated, directly into the interior design itself, has moved on so much that, like, with all this new DSP equalization, things like that, you know, a lot of these new cars sound really good, and some people think that, maybe if I put in some random speaker or something like that with a totally different response, it'll make it sound better. But like 9 out of 10 times, it'll just kind of ruin the acoustics. So I
Right.
don't know. I see that as a little bit of a negative trend in DIY car audio. Um, but yeah, I don't have too many thoughts on car audio aside from that.
The reason I picked this topic is because yeah, I mean I do drive a lot, but I don't typically listen to music while I'm driving.
Right.
I'm usually just like just driving and that's it, or talking to my wife or whoever's with me. But recently, the reason I kind of mentioned this is because so I have a Tesla, and they recently got Tidal integration going. So, and I have a Tidal account, so I said that oh, that's awesome. So I hooked it up and it worked, and like I activated it on my phone or whatever, and it works through the car system, and it works amazingly well, like smoothly. Like the title's on the screen,
Right,
and I
right.
can select everything. I can get my playlist there, and I was really impressed with the sound quality. It's not gonna obviously compete with like a good near field system
Yeah,
in
yeah,
a
of course
room, or
not.
you know what I mean. Yeah, it's definitely not
Yeah,
gonna compete with that.
and I know like a lot of I know some like Tesla cars, so they have a lot of like ceiling reflections because of how far back the
Yeah.
window goes and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. But I was still really impressed with the sound. Like it's still for
right,
given it is car audio, like it was still very enjoyable. It had good solid bass. It had good clarity.
right,
So I think for the purpose of like I'm a kind of guy that I mainly want hi-fi stuff when I'm at home, and when I'm on the go, either through like via IEMs or car audio or whatever. I'm not that picky. I'm just like whatever, right?
right. Yeah,
So in that kind of scenario, I was very happy with it, and probably more than anything, I was in addition to the music quality, just having title access while you drive is I think is really cool. So that
it's
was
so good.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah. So car audio, but yeah, it's interesting what you said about how people are kind of constantly wanting to tweak and add more, and especially when it comes to bass and like subwoofers and all that kind of thing.
yeah.
I mean, that's the classic stereotype of car audio. It's just like people with like massive subwoofers, and they're going down the street in a suburb, and like everything's vibrating and stuff. Like that's the classic
No, but
stereotype.
it's true sometimes. That's the thing.
I know, yeah.
I mean, it's fun, but like like sometimes I don't know. I see it as unnecessary sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's totally it's completely different what they're going for, and it's not about hi-fi or, audiophile kind of listening. It's more
No,
about
no,
just
no.
like
It's a different
let's
crowd.
let me just shake my yeah, exactly. A different crowd, let me
Yeah,
just shake everything. So,
yeah,
yeah. I feel like audiophiles, because of that, audiophiles probably kind of look down on car audio in general, and maybe are a bit snobby when it comes to car audio. But the thing is that car audio is like its own thing, right? It's not like it's competing against like two channel listening in a room or headphones, or it's not really. It's a separate domain totally.
yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
and to be honest though, I don't know. I think sometimes there's like some of these aftermarket cardio kit manufacturers are kind of misleading in their advertising as well. So I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, definitely. Uh,
It's a yeah, but it's a different crowd. It's not like no, it's not something to be too snobby about, I guess.
yeah. I know that some hi-fi companies are in the car audio space. Like
Yep.
I think Focal makes car audio speakers, I believe.
Car
And
audio is actually one of their biggest segments.
oh
So
wow, okay.
I think yeah, no, Focal has a very big car speaker presence. I don't know if they're any good when it comes to that, but
Right, right.
like they have like a car audio version of like all their speaker brands
Oh wow.
basically. Like there's even like a Utopia car speaker kit. It's like
Really?
400.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, like
Wow.
$400 for like a tweeter or something like that.
Holy cow, that's crazy. I wonder how good it is in a car setup. That's
I have
crazy.
no idea, but but yeah, no, it's a very. I don't quote me on this, but I do think that car audio is probably more more profitable than hi-fi at this time.
Wow, yeah. That's, I mean,
Like
that kind of would make sense just because
like
everyone's driving.
like yeah, like Sony, Pioneer, how even I think even Name got into this for a little bit. Sennheiser's trying to get into it a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
car audio is a big deal.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing a ad for a car, and it was Revel had a system.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was Lincoln maybe or
I don't
some.
know.
I think yeah, I feel like it was like the new Lincoln cars have Revel systems. I'm not sure, but yeah. So it would be cool to hear like a really high end car audio system, like with full cal speakers or whatever. I would be interested. It would be interesting to hear how it compares to a normal room, and also
Well,
if people do like maybe people do car audio treatments in their in the cabin of the car.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's all down to like the manufacturer, really, the car designer. Have you seen like like I don't know, like the new Volvos? Have you seen those?
No.
Those the high end models, they include a Bowers and Wilkins sound system and DSP.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's just stuff like that. Like you just see these random like high end brands just popping up in cars, and sometimes it's just a name thing like Bang and Olufsen.
Right.
Their Beal play. It's just a name put over
Right.
some random crap, or like Harman Kardon. Sometimes they'll rebadge some random crap, but more often I see now that like they're not just doing that. It's actual like real work getting put into making these cars into enjoyable acoustic spaces, enjoyable listening spaces. So, so yeah, it'd be nice
Yeah.
to go down to a dealer and track
Yeah.
up the car speaker.
Yeah, that would be funny, eh? The audio file goes in. He's like, no, I don't need to drive. I just need to sit in and listen to the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. Okay. All right. So this, Juan, you're kind of an expert on this topic. This one about
Uh,
driver material, or at least
yeah.
more expert than any of us in here. So, what are your thoughts on how driver material impacts the sound of a transducer makes? What's the impact of it? I'm sure you've experimented with different driver material types.
Yeah.
Give us your thoughts on that?
So, so when it comes to driver materials, you have to, because I don't design transducers. I design the chassis, right?
Right.
So I don't manufacture the speakers, the loudspeakers themselves. However, in general, what manufacturers are looking for, I believe, is more so related to damping factor of the material and the actual weight of the material. So,
Right.
a lot of efficiency in a speaker is, partly determined by the actual weight of the cone. That's why a lot of manufacturers are moving towards lighter, but at the same time more rigid cones, so that you're able to, get a bit more SPL out of these speakers. Um, but when it comes to things like material itself as like how the material sounds basically, um, you know there's a lot of things that go into it, and in headphones especially, like the most headphones they'll use a PET cone and surround, and so the cone and surround are made of the same material. So you know sometimes you'll coat the PET in like titanium or something like that. And at the same time, you'll be coating the surround, so now the whole system gets more stiff, and the restorative force on the driver changes a little bit to match uh, the acoustic environment you're trying to put it in, right?
Right.
So it's a lot of things down to implementation and whatnot, and I'll be honest with you. A lot of the time, these coatings don't really matter too much, especially in headphones. But
Right.
it really is the implementation um, that that's what's going to change the sound more. Um, However, there are cases where like the driver that I work with is a Tinfinny paper cone driver, right?
Right.
And paper is, although fairly rigid, is still a very self-damping material. So, everything it produces past a certain point, it'll start kind of damping itself out in some weird ways. So, for example, like things like treble extension may not be as good without some kind of compensation, or on these paper cone drivers. And so, I have to deal with, okay, well, how do I shift these resonances around and keep it from sounding very dark and very veiled, so to speak, and do things that work around the property of the materials to try and make something that works. However, you'll see cases like the Focal headphones where they'll use a very hard metal cone material that doesn't really self-damp at all, and you'll end up with a lot of these very small, narrow treble peaks that can end up with this metallic timbre to it. It's not that it sounds like metal. It just sounds like, it's just that there's treble resonances across the high frequency range that aren't being damped out. So it's things like that you have to work around when it comes to these driver material types. But when it comes to like, oh well, how does the material affect sound? That's a bit of a broad thing to ask. But basically speaking, look at just how you want I think how you want it to deal with the resonances, first of all, and what you're actually using it for, especially with these headphone drivers. But I will stress that the actual motor behind the diaphragms, arguably, more important than like these coatings and whatnot that some manufacturers use and market.
Right.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's a lot of different factors.
Yeah. So, like, first of all, right off the bat, I think what you're suggesting is that driver material does have some impact. It's not that it's
it can have a big impact.
Right.
But sometimes it doesn't actually matter. Sometimes it does. Usually it does, but it's a broad question.
Yeah. I mean, logically that makes a lot of sense. Like how paper has more self-damping than something like pure beryllium or something like that.
Yeah, metal or
Right.
or even these like biodynamic cones. You'll see that they'll have a lot of treble resonance.
Right.
Breakup and whatnot. Well, I wouldn't say breakup, but they'll change. Now, when it comes to loudspeakers, I forgot this. I know speakers are popular here, and I know some people like to look at speaker cones.
Right.
Like the tweeters, they'll kind of judge them by the material that is used, I think.
Yeah.
And so one of the things there, going back to what I said about having lightweight and rigid cones, because that affects velocity of the driver. And so when you're not having a resonance chamber where like usually in bass response where the hold on, there's some noise in the background.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, sorry. But basically, in some of these cases where you'll have like a speaker tweeter, a lot of the response on the tweeter is in very high frequencies is actually determined by the material. Because I keep bringing up resonances, but these different peaks and dips, they're affected by how the material self-damps and how the velocity, how fast you can actually get it to move. For example, you'll see like these silk dome tweeters that can't extend super well because the cone eventually just can't actually keep up with the velocity of the motor, and so eventually just damps itself out, and the response just dies out in a very, very linear way, just rolls off. You see that with a lot of headphones. But then you see something like really hard dome tweeters, which are a bigger challenge to design, where very high frequencies in the response will be very much affected by the ability to not only self-damp, but how it actually breaks up into these resonances at very high frequencies. So, like, some people claim that all metal domes sound very harsh and metallic. However, that is sometimes not the case. It's just where the breakup frequency of the driver is, because a lot of these hard domes, instead of rolling off in a linear way, they'll just do so very violently into these very harsh breakup modes, and then you'll get that sort of metallic response. So the challenge is to move those resonances out of the range of hearing so that it's not an issue.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's something that makes a lot of sense, and in keeping with the findings of many people when they listen to drivers of different material types. And of course, you would expect that. Obviously, there's a big there are many other factors, as you mentioned. The motor is a factor. The shape of the driver, the
room.
Yeah, exactly. So those could have obviously impact things, as you're saying.
Yeah.
But there's a common theme that I find among people who listen to, for example, beryllium or aluminum and things like that, is that high resonance kind of ringing that can sometimes lead to sibilance and like a overly hot sound. And then as you said about things like paper and other silk domes that are sometimes a little too kind of rolled because of the material itself. One interesting thing that comes to mind is YG's design with their tweeter, where they took a silk dome and then they put a very light airframe behind the silk dome to balance so that you get some more rigidity and stiffness, but you have the damping effect of the silk dome to get kind of a balance of both.
But yeah, I have seen like frames being used behind like aluminum domes to push up that resonance frequency and keep them from breaking up.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, it's things like that. Yeah. I have not worked with graphene. However, I'm trying to look. I'm not familiar with their work here. Yeah, I would actually need to look into that myself. But in general, it's back to how can we move the resonances around, and how how we can change the velocity of a loudspeaker to get an optimal response for what it's designed to do. Right. So yeah, if we found that graphene is a superior material than what else, other things from the market, then yeah, I mean, it's worth looking into. But the thing is that the industry changes all the time. Popular materials change all the time. Sometimes they turn out to be bad, sometimes they don't. So, like you saw that, like that what's that one company? They were making this they were claiming world's first graphene headphone or something like that. They were going on and on about how the material had all these amazing properties, but then didn't really matter. It was probably just the coating over something else, and the implementation was crap. So, like personally speaking, like my general advice would be to, because a lot of people, they get really caught up on the material and the driver type and things like that. Generally what I would say to most people is, don't worry about it too much. Worry about how they actually implemented this to make it work. If if the implementation is not good, then none of this matters, and you just end up with a bad product.
Right.
Despite whatever hype they may wrap around it.
Right. Okay, fair enough. Now let's go to another topic in the realm of drivers, and that's kind of horn based drivers and versus domes, or whatever the driver is, mid range tweeters, whatever it is. What are your thoughts on the sound characteristics of both? Is there a kind of common kind of theme among like horns versus domes that you've noticed in terms of differences, pros and cons between them, what you prefer?
So I don't design horns. I don't work in that space. I think Skorg is probably, if he were here, he'd have a lot to say about that. But personally, for me, you know, I from what I have seen, there is quite a bit of difference in regards to how the waves actually disperse and how they sort of resonate at the edge of their dispersion patterns. But I couldn't say a whole lot on that topic. It's I do think it would be different use cases. The like if you use a certain type of waveguide with a certain type of horn to get a certain type of directivity that you couldn't get on like a standard dome dome tweeter with a flat baffle, things like that. You can change how the dispersion works and how the response acts. But as a whole, it's hard for me to say because I don't have experience with that.
Fair enough. I think there are a lot of people in the Discord that are that do like horns because there's a lot of clip shoners and more people are buying clip speakers. So I've heard clip speakers briefly at a show, so I can't really comment on the sound too much because I don't think they were set up well and they were playing like music I don't like, so I can't really comment. But from my understanding, based on what I've read and based on what people very experienced people that have talked to me about it, about what they've told me about this topic, basically horns kind of convey dynamics in a way that it's difficult for domes to kind of keep up with. That fast, big kind of dynamic swing is conveyed with a horn in a very very impressive way that domes can't quite match. And my understanding is that because of that, they kind of allow you to listen at lower volumes while still being engaged, essentially, compared to domes. Whereas Fami especially discusses that often, where he says that one of the reasons he chose his clip speakers is because he doesn't want to kind of always have to crank the music to enjoy, the dynamics and that full kind of sound. Whereas I'm mainly experienced with domes. I have the ATC STM7 bookshelves, and then I have my Yamaha NS5000s, and for both of them, I noticed that if you don't kind of turn them up a bit, you definitely lose you lose dynamics, you lose soundstage, and the imaging kind of falls off. Like it, I remember when I was auditioning the Yamaha, and I was really impressed with it at shows I've heard, and then when I heard it at the dealer, I was like, it doesn't sound that good. It sounds kind of lifeless and flat, and it doesn't sound 3D, and I'm like, what's going on? And then I turned it up a bit, and I didn't turn it up to levels where it's painful to listen to, not like that, but it's just like not quiet anymore. I don't know what the dB rating was. I didn't measure it, but
well, you have to know. Well, you have to keep in mind, Fletcher-Munson curve, right? The louder something is, the more sort of D shape you'll hear it as, and the more excited the sound signature generally speaks.
Right.
So this sense of dynamism is, a lot of it's kind of attributed to that.
Right.
How you can kind of overcome that curve. So when it comes to like Klipsch's horn speakers, because you can get a horn is technically, I think, much more efficient than just having a a tweeter on a baffle, right? So you can get a lot more SPL in high end with these clipped horn tweeters, or
Right.
depending on the horn type. Um, so you can get that really sort of excited sound signature. It will no longer sound flat. It'll be more elevated in that upper end in a way that does sound more interesting in terms of sound than what you can get in a lot of these standard dome tweeters, which may not be as efficient, and you may not be able to get them as loud just with the enclosure. Um, so then you do need to turn them up a bit. However, I would not call this a general rule that horn speakers are really excited. This is part of Klipsch's house sound that they do. So it's
Right.
they
Right.
generally go for that, and the horn does allow them to push more SPL out of those tweeters and make them sound more fun, more dynamic. But like for example, because I use JBL Studio 590s, and those they can sort of sound like that if you push them, but it's like they're quite smooth, and they're quite they're not super excited of a response like the clip speaker, so it's a totally different presentation. So it's again implementation, but yes, you can get a horn to pull off things like that may not be as done, that you may not be able to do as practically on a standard tweeter, just because of the efficiency that you can pull off.
Right, right. That makes sense. So that's a good point and very interesting. What you're saying is essentially that, that you can't really hang your hat on saying that horns are typically always more dynamic, because there can be more laid back, smoother horns
Right.
sounds.
More waveguides, yeah.
I see. I see. That's a good point. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I would like to listen to more horns for sure. I have actually no. Now that I think about it, I have heard an avant-garde. I think I forgot the. It was one of the duo kind of series ones. So the with the. I forgot two. It has like two big wave guides, and I forgot the
Mm-hmm.
exact model. But yeah, I wasn't very impressed with that horn. But I think that again, there were so many variables. It could have been the room. It could have been. I think they were
Could be a lot.
active too, so they weren't using external amps, and I'm not sure. But I definitely want to get more experience with horns. I want to hear. I want to hear the Klipsch's again, because everybody in the Discord is going crazy about Klipsch.
Which Klipsch model?
I think, is it Forte 3 or Forte 4, something like
Lip
that.
Forte. I let's see.
And then I think some people have Heresy, but I think mostly it's people that have. I know Fami has Forte. Oh no, Lana has Heresy, and Fami has Forte, and there's at least two or three other Klipsch owners, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard these. I've heard the clip, the really really old Klipsch ones.
Right,
Um,
right,
and those were like yeah, like peak, sort of Klipsch, really really loud, low to high treble range, and it was like this really bombastic sort of excited sound to it, like that.
right.
So yeah, I do know that's generally what they like going for with their speakers, which can sound like that. Um, I think maybe there's other ways to go about that, and I know not everyone likes that, but yeah, this is just a way that they took advantage of their horn design to push out more SPL and get that sound that they like, and that obviously a lot of people here like.
Right, right, right. I also have heard the RP series, like the more home theater oriented series. But
The lower ones, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I think that actually those are quite good speakers for the money, because they do sound very good with music too, and especially for non-audiophiles who are kind of just getting into better audio systems for music, and don't want to necessarily commit to something that's maybe more expensive, or maybe they want something that fits from an aesthetic point of view better. It's not too out there. The
Right.
RP series, I think I actually got my friend to get the 600s, the RP 600s, and at first I was trying to convince him to get. He's in a condo, and I was trying to convince him to
Right.
get towers, because I wanted him to get that full bass and that kind of thing, and but he ended up with the 600s, just because they fit his room better, and he just loves them. And I know Steve Guttenberg has 600s also in one of his listening
RP
setups.
600.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know about Steve, but I have heard good things about the RP 600. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I think they go on sale for like under 500 sometimes, you know.
I'm trying to see. Trying to remember if this is the one because I think. Okay, yeah, I've seen this one before. Yeah, this one's yeah, and you can see the response of this, and a lot of these clip speakers they kind of follow the same general trend
Mhm.
as the
Mhm.
Heron ones. Yeah, they all have that sort of really fun sound to them. I do know that the RT600M has like it's crossed over in a weird way specifically to do that.
Right.
Um, you know, but it seems to not be an inherent thing with their horns. It's just how they how they design their crossover to match that target. I have seen people modify it to get a very flat linear response out of it that doesn't really seem characteristic of typical clips, and I assume that that could be the case for a lot of them. But
Right.
yeah,
There's another company that's really interesting. Well, there's obviously Avant-Garde. They're kind of well known in the
right.
hi-fi space, but there's another one that's interesting. I forgot the name of. I just turned on a site and started playing music, but it's one that Fami is interested in. It's like a Viking kind of themed speaker where it's like wood waveguide and like huge wooden horn waveguide, and it
Oh,
looks
I've
really
seen.
cool. You saw that, right?
I've seen something like that. There's like I've seen some manufacturers do that. Yeah, like really big flared out wood waveguides, wood horns.
Absolutely, yeah, and especially in the DIY circle,
Uh,
you see that.
uh, and I see them pop up on like pre-assembled wood horns sometimes on AliExpress too. So
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
so yeah, I definitely like to get into horns more, listen to them more. I'm sure they have advantages. I think they especially also can be suited for bigger rooms because of the directivity of horns
depends on the
versus.
sound projection and the directivity, but yes, because you can get like I said, you can get them much more efficient.
Right.
No, you can push SPL and you can project more sound into a room or a concert venue. That's why a lot of these concert speakers are compression horns.
Right, right. Yeah, and that brings to. I just started to think about. Is it is a rotary subwoofer the same kind of deal, or that's different?
Oh, rotary subwoofers. That is
That's
yes
different.
and no.
Okay.
It's an interesting way of taking advantage of resonance uh, in resonance chambers to produce bass. Uh, I'm not even going to pretend to understand these things because they're fucking weird. But basically speaking, you've got it's just a way to move a lot of air.
Right.
Uh, I've never experienced one in my life. I would really like to. Um, but basically, yeah, like it relies on having a massive resonance chamber and this fan blade looking thing to push a ton of air at the resonance frequency and get that massive down to infrabass sub-bass extension that you need to build a whole room for. So yeah, I
Right.
want to I want to try one of those things.
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
but there's another interesting type of subwoofer. Not sure if you've used. I certainly haven't. But basically, these. Have you ever seen a big full wall array subwoofer?
Yeah, I think I've seen not a whole wall though, but I've seen like the like the Rel 6 packs and stuff like that.
Hmm. Okay. Because
With yeah.
I geez, I forget the term for this, but basically, there's a way to get like some really really crazy base response while eliminating like room modes, and that is to take the wall of this one of the walls of the space that you're using, and then like space the subwoofers in a specific way relative to like the wavelength of their resonance frequency along the entire wall. And then on the other side of the wall, you have the exact, on the other side of the room, you would have the exact same thing, but
Right.
inverted. And so you would
Hmm.
essentially get, for lack of better terms, a wall of sound being pushed towards the back and then immediately eliminated by the out of phase subwoofers on the other side of the room.
That's
Like
interesting.
just like a plane wave, I think it's called. I don't remember, but if you ever see one of those, uh, another really crazy way to get bass, kind of along the lines of those rotary subs.
So what's the purpose of that design? You said that there's the other side is out of phase, the wall, or
Yes,
there's
yes,
yeah.
yeah. So you would have subwoofers on one end of the room, and then you'd have subwoofers on the other end of the room, right? They'd be spaced
Oh,
in a specific way to push air, and then by the time it reaches the other side of the room, the any back wave reflections will be immediately eliminated by the out of
oh, I
by the speeds
see.
of the other
So
subwoofers.
you get a cleaner base. Is that the idea?
Yeah, you get basically bass without I don't know some sort of room mode stuff. I
Yeah,
don't know, but basically speaking, there's a whole Wikipedia on this too. Um,
interesting.
how it interacts with like the sidewalls and the way front moves in a certain way. Uh, but yeah, it's some interesting stuff. You should look into it.
I'll check that out. I know that uh, Dennis
Yeah,
Foley
it's in the podcast channel. You can look at that.
oh, okay, cool, cool. I know that Dennis Foley at Acoustic Fields, he's a big fan of doing subwoofers in different positions, and then also vertically in different positions, not just like on the same plane. So
Mm-hmm.
what he advocates for is subs that are some are kind of up on a platform, then others are lower down, then some others are even closer to the ground, generally out of the corners. And then I think that I know the main guy at Rel also argued that when you align subwoofers like that, where there's like a vertical kind of component to it, there's like, of course, we always say that the low frequencies are kind of directionless, but he
Yeah.
feels that there is maybe it's like the upper mid bass, I guess, or upper bass frequencies, I guess. He feels that there is like this vertical kind of component to it, and I do wonder about that because I remember I heard some of the best bass I've ever heard was the what was the speaker brand? Not Dyne Audio. So it was the Dyne Audio um, Confidence series. It was their flagship, the Confidence 60 or something like that. It was the and they have bass woofers and they're very kind of they at least in the room I was in, they were kind of quite vertically aligned. They were quite high up, and I did notice that it's felt like the bass was very tall. Like there was like a the height component to the bass. I don't know. It's hard to
Uh,
describe. It's very hard to describe. I don't mean the ultra low frequencies, but
yeah. It would be
maybe
in
yeah,
mid bass to upper bass
yeah,
frequencies. Yeah, yeah,
exactly, exactly.
yeah. Yeah, I've experienced a similar thing with the headphones actually. Where you can like, yeah, if you boost a certain region in the bass response, things start to sound really, I don't know, big, not wide, just big. um,
Right.
but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, uh, and yeah, I do think that there is, yeah, that sort of mid bass region is, a certain component of how you perceive you know, the image of the space you're listening to. I don't know, but yeah, it's there. It's there. And I've experienced that. Right. Oh yeah, yeah. I think I know who you're talking about. uh, look, look. Look. I'm not sure if such a setup would be better than everything else. I'm too broke to care about the rolls, but but I've done the same thing, but with cost KSC 75s, and yeah, it was it was a pretty nutty experience.
Yeah.
I brought some shitty clip shot into my office and just ran it, put some KSC 75s on, and ran baseline from the receiver that I was using to power the headphones with on. Yeah,
Right.
that was something else.
Yeah, I think that I suppose that any headphone, as long as it's sufficiently open, you could run subs with it and then enhance
uh,
it. You know.
I wouldn't say enhanced. I mean, you don't, if you have a steel headphone, you don't really need a subwoofer. You'll get better extension anyways with just
Right.
the headphone,
Right.
unless
Right.
you want to feel some kind of like
Yeah, the physical
reverberation happening.
component. The physical component.
Yeah, if you get a subwoofer loud enough to have a physical component to your body, then yeah, of course, that's a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Yeah, then yeah, why not? Why not? Sounds fun.
But yeah, it's interesting. The idea of like so, obviously SR1A is so open, so pairing it with that subwoofer and especially fine tuning it with if SVS has
Yeah,
the app, which I have PSA subs and they don't have any ability to do that. It's something that's very interesting. I did try it actually. I did try with my subs the SR1A, and it was cool. I think I couldn't get them to kind of meld together properly, but it was interesting.
mm, yeah. It sounds that sounds like a lot of fun to be honest. I want to try that one of these days,
Yeah, yeah,
just with the roll because like I tried that roll headphone before, and I really yeah I really didn't like it, but I did enjoy like everything above 2 kilohertz sounded very nice. You know, I actually liked it a lot, even if it was a little bit wonky. But then everything below like 1 kilohertz just gradually got worse for me. So, you know, maybe a nice subwoofer will fix that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I overall I wasn't a huge fan of SR1A because it just didn't have the body that I like, and obviously if you take the subwoofer out, then there was basically very minimal, not enough bass for me at least to be enjoyable.
You know
So,
what? I just thought of an interesting combination.
mm-hmm.
So you know this those old AKG K 500 K 501 K 400 that
Yep,
series.
yep,
Yeah, yeah. I have a couple of those. Um, a similar situation as the Raw. I think they sound kind of similar in that way. They're nice, kind of excited past like 2 kilohertz. There's a very interesting response in the treble region. They sound very wide.
yeah,
Um, however, you know, there's basically no sub bass, no hardly any mid bass to speak of. It just rolls off hard. You try to
right,
boost it, and it sounds kind of wonky. It's a little bit distorted. So
right,
why not add a subwoofer to it?
right,
Might
right,
actually
right.
give a good experience. Uh,
Yeah,
maybe when I head back out of the dorm, I'll on vacation, I'll try that.
yeah,
So
yeah, definitely.
I live in a dorm right now, so no, I can't have a subwoofer here. But back home, back my parents' place, I have a nice JBL subwoofer. I have all my vintage AKGs. So
Nice,
I just want to try that.
cool, cool. All right. So Juan, obviously this was shorter show because just you and me, but
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it, and
unfortunately.
I appreciate all your knowledge. Do you have any kind of final thoughts or any other topics you wanna touch before we close it out?
Uh, you know what? One thing that's been confusing me a little bit lately has been a lot of this. I think animosity towards different driver types in headphones.
Okay,
You
yeah.
know, I see like people who are like big electrostatic fans, going, oh no, all dynamic headphones are bad, for one reason, or people who like, some people who really like certain dynamic driver headphones will be like, oh no, all platers are bad, they sound compressed, yada yada, things like that.
Right.
I can see that back and forth too much, and I just want to know, why. That's my question: is why?
The obvious one is I don't know if you mentioned this, but the obvious one was in our Discord, the kind of planar hate, where a lot of people
Yeah.
love.
I mean, here it's very present. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and I think well, okay, in terms of planars, I think the hate comes mainly due to timbre issues, which I think that a lot even planar lovers, like even if you look at Andrew,
yeah. There
he's
are a
the
lot of I know like a lot of players, they're not, like once you get past 1 kilohertz, they have a lot of like non-linearities which will affect the timbre. So yeah,
right.
I can see that. Um, but but like still, there's some, like not hi-fi man, but like some of the higher end odysseys, they sound really quite nice to me. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one, but um, and I found that even some hi-fi man sounded natural enough. But maybe that's just me. Um, but like another argument I've been seeing was something about the actual dynamic compression from planar based headphones,
Right.
things like that. I don't really understand that. I mean, you have because you have planar headphones with much higher SPL output than dynamic counterparts. You know, so
I think this boils down to that whole concept of well, I guess two concepts. One is like just punch and slam, and then the other is like I guess macro dynamics and macro contrast and that kind of thing. And I think the ability of dynamics to convey that it probably is beyond what most all planar headphones can do. Like that, that slap and punch and slam, especially with the bass, with dynamics. I mean, it's hard to, like I've said it before. I've connected my HD800S to a speaker amp, and when you do that, the bass. I'm not saying it becomes a bass headphone or it has
right,
a
yeah,
huge
that
quantity of
that head will
bass,
never be
but
based on.
yeah, no, for sure. But the punch and slam and the dynamic impact I got out of the 800 like was more than Sasvara, more than Aria. It was more that it was almost believe it or not, it was almost rivaling the Abyss, if not on the same level. I'm not now
Yeah,
the Abyss had
I can believe that. I was not too impressed by the Abyss headphones.
oh really the TC.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. Yeah, the only one I tried was the Tough 66. That one was not that was not for me.
Oh. Well, I mean the as long as you get the fit right, I mean they're known for having really good bass, like really good impact.
Mm,
They have amazing extension, amazing detail, texture, and I agree with all those things. I think they do, but if you put them up against the 800 on a speaker amp, the 800 to me slammed nearly as hard. And then if you put them up against something like Atticus, I mean it's kind of not fair because it's closed, but if you put them up against Atticus, like Atticus's bass just completely blows. It completely overwhelms the TC's bass. Like the TC
mm,
has cleaner bass, has more accurate bass, has better extension, but the Atticus has this visceral punch and slam that is way beyond the TC.
yeah,
Like it's not even close.
yeah. I know, like the ZMF headphones, they have like this really nice, like warm, low punchy sound to them. Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah.
but
So,
but
but
that's
yeah.
but that's a difference in necessarily implementation and how you get the drivers to actually respond. I believe. And that leads me to another question. Um, you brought up the term slam a lot, but I rarely see anyone, really define it. Either I've seen people say, "Oh, well, it's not something you hear; it's something you feel," or "It's something you hear, but it's not, represented in any quantifiable way." What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a good point. No, I definitely hear that too. I think that recently that discussion was brought up by ASR's comments on Andrew's review, I
Oh,
think, of the Dan Clark audio self. My definition of slam, or kind of dynamic impact, I shouldn't say dynamic, let me just say slam. My definition of
okay.
slam is the sense of air hitting your head and hitting your eardrum, like a feeling of just pressure against your ear. So for example, if there's a sudden like kick drum on a bass, or on a sorry, if there's a sudden kick drum, or there's a sudden slam of a drum, percussive slam in the music, the driver itself is essentially kicking or slamming. And I shouldn't say kicking, it's also kind of mimicking that
Yeah,
slam
yeah,
and
yeah.
pushing the air against your ear and against your head. And the thing is, when you listen to tracks with bass, like especially mid bass, not so much sub bass, but more mid bass and that kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing, you
Ah,
appreciate that. It becomes quite obvious, and you can feel that slam versus and
right. Yeah, it's a harmonic effect. Yeah,
right.
yeah. Okay,
It's
yeah.
it's
That's
the, it's
that's a
the
good way to put
driver.
it.
It's the driver moving and generating air quickly. That's the way I define slam.
Mm,
More
okay.
air, more movement.
More air means more volume, but yeah, yeah. I kind of see what you mean.
Yeah. If you
Okay.
okay, and it's very, in my opinion, it's very easy to kind of hash this out by listening to headphones. So if you listen to something like an aria, and then if you listen to something like an Atticus, they'll be like the totally kind of polar opposites. And you
Yeah,
can
because
you could
Atticus
you
has a lot of that, like, mid tone going on with things that affects that harmonic area, and
sure,
yeah.
I'm sure you could probably it doesn't come to my mind off the top of my head, but I'm sure you could find something where the SPL, or no, I shouldn't say SPL, the bass, yeah, I guess SPL, the
Yeah, it is feel,
bass,
yeah.
yeah,
It's just
the bass measures similarly, between let's say a planar versus a dynamic. You get a planar headphone, you get a dynamic headphone. The SPL is relatively similar, but when you listen to them and you hear the dynamic, it has this effect where you feel the air, you feel it more, the air against your eardrum and your ear, more so than in the planar. That's what I
mm,
think people are talking about when they say slam quality. So when they say
mm-hmm,
that aria doesn't really slam, it's, to me, it's that physicality of the air movement. That's my definition of slam.
mm. I can't say I've experienced something like that exactly myself. However, I do know that, I mean, because obviously all of this is, implementational.
Yeah.
Um, but I do know that, like a lot of dynamic headphones, they'll have very big harmonic distortion rises down into the bass range, while, like a headphone like the Aria won't really do that so much.
Yeah.
So I do think that maybe there is an effect going on where the bass is actually starting to affect some upper harmonics, which can create a different sensation to the sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I say this, I say this with sincerity, because sometimes I'll bring up like distortion or something like that, and some people think I'm saying that as a bad thing, but no, my take is that, if the distortion sounds good, then it is good, right? So I don't know. Maybe I don't know if that's exactly what you're expressing, but I don't know. Maybe that's just one theory.
You very well might be right. It might be a distortion effect that I'm hearing.
Yeah, could be, could be, could
My kind of like when Andrew talks about this in his reviews, this is in the subjective section, right? Not the objective section. So this is
be.
just
Yeah, yeah,
the way I kind of interpret what I'm hearing and how it makes me, I guess, feel in terms of my ear and that kind of thing. But could it be due to more distortion? Yeah, maybe. I'm not
yeah.
sure.
Maybe
I'm not
some
sure.
sort of some sort of upper harmonics being affected in some audible
Yeah.
way. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
But
I think
yeah,
that for sure, one, that's really interesting, and I think next episode when we get more people on, we should ask them that, because there's obviously all the other guys know a lot more than me about this, and I bet like Zach and Lana and
different insight. Yeah,
Ko especially would be a good guy to talk about this, because he likes to get into that bone conduction stuff too. So
bone conduction.
that's huh.
Wait, bone conduction? What?
Yeah. The you know the IEM bone conduction bass stuff, the Mason
Uh,
fabled sound.
which I
Mason fabled sound.
Jason fabled somewhat. What?
Yeah.
Sorry, give me a second to look that up. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Mason fabled sound. I think Cole. I don't know if I'm saying it wrong, but
Oh,
yeah.
the UM stuff. Uh, yeah. I saw him bring up the UM stuff once. I will say that from a technical perspective, that bone conduction thing actually doesn't work. You can't actually get enough voltage for that little piezo to, move that part of your ear, which by the way isn't directly conducting to your bone regardless. It's a piece of cartilage.
Right.
So I don't.
So Juan, I want you to be on the episode where Cole comes, because Cole's been away for several episodes.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna come back soon. So I want you to be on, and then we're gonna discuss just bone conduction. I want that to be. I'm gonna put that for the next episode, and that'll
I'm gonna
be
get pummeled for this, but
that's gonna be a really interesting discussion, I think.
yeah, because I remember you brought up. He's like, "Oh, bone conduction is the future of something like that." I'm like, but it doesn't actually work the way you think it does. I don't know, but yeah, I was never able to bring up a counterpoint that the discussion moved on. So yeah, maybe next time.
Definitely next time.
Be an interesting discussion.
All right. Well, I really appreciate it, Juan. It was a good show. I really appreciate you coming on, and we create a show just the two of us. Usually we have too many people, but this time it was just you and me, but we made it work. So that's really good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I look forward to hearing more about your headphone. And yeah, I appreciate it. And until next time.
All right. Until next time. See you around.
Take care, Juan. Take care, everyone. Bye.